right there. It's literally the book I should have written about my life. It's amazing. I actually did write it. Okay, my mother's going to say you have to cut your hair. I know I have to cut my hair. What hair? I have hair, thank God.
Hair?
Might be white, but I have hair. Can't say that about all my family members. But I do, for now, I have teeth and hair, Baruch Hashem. And my reading glasses. I never missed these reading glasses so much as the last time we had the lesson. Okay, so we're now going to finish Be'ezrat Hashem, the lesson that we've been working on, 76, Ayin Vav, and since the end is really the conclusion of the lesson, it'll summarize in general what we've been learning. Yiva'er, this is Zayin in my volume, could be Vav in yours. Yiva'er ketzad hasaga hanal neomezet bepasuk shabo patach et haTorah didan. So we open with the verse, Vayihi achar dvrim ha'ele ve'elokim nisat Avraham. It was after these things occurred that Hashem tested Avraham. V'zeh perush pasuk, and this is the meaning of the verse, Vayihi achar dvrim ha'ele. So he's going to break it down. I'll say shalom aleichem to everyone, David, Vera, Yael, and Zahava, and Katie, hopefully we're watching later, and Avital, and David, and everyone else who watches. So, and the verse is, and it was after these things occurred, Perush, the meaning is, Adam shu tamid beshaveh. A person that's always in this stuck state, she'avodat Hashem shalo, hi batzimaon tamidi. That a person's service of Hashem is always in this forever longing thirst. Below naichan amochin, without any resting their mind. She hamenucha lamochin ni b'chinat she'ein avodato b'shaveh. The fact that a person can allow their mind to rest from their service of Hashem and their Torah study means that they're already in a state of equilibrium. That they're not stuck. Ki pam oved harbe v'pam noach. So there's periods where people are serving Hashem intensely, and periods where people are taking a break. And this is also the benefit of not learning Torah all day. A person that learns Torah all day, my guess is that they should go to a gamach and serve kugel. Or, go and help in some other. If you just want to be totally involved in Kedusha all day long, so go out and do some type of chesed to allow your mind to have the naicha, to have the rest, to have the itchadshut, to have the renewal, so when you come back to learning or davening, you're not stuck in the same place. But he's saying basically a person that's full on, just studies and davens all day long, unless I'm guessing they're a very special tzaddik, which are very rare. Like when we talk about Reb Zusha, there's only one Reb Zusha. We talk about, there's other Hasidim that would start davening in the morning and daven all the way through the second minyan and the third minyan and then to Mincha and all the minyans for Mincha and all the minyans for Arvit, and only then would they finish. But most of these Hasidim, even guys like that, would go to work at least an hour a day. And the bracha was that during the 1 hour that they went to work, they would get a full day's worth of parnasa. You have to be on a very high level for that. So he's saying, normal people, it's good to have this break. So if a person isn't taking these breaks and they're just push, and he calls it simaon, he calls it this thirst, for the unquenchable thirst, trying to come close to Hashem, then they don't have this renewed way of thinking. And here, I'll give you an example. It wasn't related to Torah, it was related to Parnasa. I have a website of Judaica that it's so slow, I don't get any orders from this website. I was thinking of just shutting it down. I've had it for 25 years. Used to be a good business, stopped a long time ago. And out of nowhere I get an order for $200, which for me is a big deal. But one of the pieces the guy ordered was out of stock, and I'm not restocking anything. I don't want to spend any more money on this business. I'm going to sell off everything I have, and that's it. So I'm thinking. I said, okay, I need to do my workout. My workout, I jump on a trampoline. I jump for 35 minutes. And it's also my therapy session. Literally in the middle, I'm thinking, oh wait, there was a piece that I bought probably 20 years ago. It's the same piece, it's just a different color. And I got off the trampoline, I found it in the inventory, I went back to working out, and then I wrote to the guy, and that's the piece that he wants, and I get to keep the order, and everything worked out. Now, this is an example of what Rabbi Nachman is trying to say. If I didn't take the break, I wouldn't have had the renewed thought process to realize that I had this piece that I would never sell anyhow. It's not even on my website. It was just a piece that I bought for fairs that I used to go to years and years ago. This is the idea. You have to take this break in order to have the itchadshut hamochim. Mechemat shehu bekatnut hamochim, because otherwise a person is in this constricted, small-minded consciousness, and they're not able to see the big picture. Shu bechinat Elokim, that this is the aspect of Hashem's name Elokim, which is dinim, which is judgment, which is severity, which is constriction. Shezeu bechinat achar hadvarim. This is connected to after these things. Sheperusho, that the meaning is ki mechemat sheyesh lo mochim dekatnut. Since a person has a small-minded or constricted consciousness, ein hu yachol ledaber v'lachshov toch diburo. The person is not able to think other thoughts at the same time that they're speaking. So somebody who's very sharp, while someone is speaking, already has the answer for the next thing that they want to say. And this is like a thing. I have this thing, so I can tell you. I'm sure other people, Meira has this, and she has it in multiple languages. That, you're already thinking of the next thing. So in order to do that, you can't have a constricted consciousness, because the constricted consciousness is, I'm only focused on this one thing, I can't see anything else. He says, in the service of Hashem, if that's the way you're serving Hashem, only focus on this one thing, I can't see anything else, you're missing out, and you'll never reach really the highest places that you can. So a person who is in this, blinders, like with the horses, and can't see to the side, they can only see forward, they have to stop, think about what they want to say, and then afterwards they're going to say it. And this is after the things, but also, I don't know if he intended this, achar hadvarim is also achar hadiburim, after speaking. So you can only say something after you've said something. You can't be in the middle saying something and have a thought and then follow up with that. This person has to take breaks. But he's using this as an analogy for somebody who wants to serve Hashem. You might think, and I've met people like this many times, that they feel like all I have to do is just like daven for 12 hours a day and learn all day, and I'm going to reach this high place. Really, you reach the high place when you take these breaks. The breaks should be interacting with the world, so you're able to see Hashem in a clearer way. Which is why, I don't remember which Rebbe it was, I think it was the Belzer Rebbe, who told his Hasidim to all go into business, or at least most of them to go into business, and not to take a salaried job. Because when you're in business, you really learn Emunah. You really, really, really learn Emunah. You know what it is to say, Hashem, I have no money, and I need you to send money, and I have no other place to get it from. But if you're a government employee, and you get, 15, 20,000 shekels a month, and you're going to get your bonus, and you're going to get this, and you get that, it's very hard to have Emunah. So you go out into the world, you'll have Emunah. Something that I just read this morning, which really fascinated me, and I think it's also connected, I'm not just saying this. One of the Karliner rabbis, I don't know the names of the two rabbis, I know there's Stoltz Karlin and there's some other Karlin. Karlin, the Karliner Hasidim, their thing is to shout the davening. So you go to the shul. I went there once. My sons like to go there, although last time they went, they weren't so welcomed as before. So I don't know if they're going to go again. They're like, a good old-fashioned Hasidic group from the time of the Baal Shem Tov, or right after the Baal Shem Tov. and anti-Zionist and Meir Sharim and Bnei Brak and Beitar and all that stuff. The Rebbe recently, The Rebbe recently had a job fair in Binyanei Oma and told all the Hasidim they have to come. And there were all kinds of Hasidim, Charedim, that work in all different types of professions, and they were looking to hire. And he told everybody, get a job. Now, this is mind-blowing to me, but it goes further. He said he wants all of his Hasidim to have smartphones with a filter. But to have a smartphone and to use it in public and not pretend that they don't have a smartphone, because he knows that everybody has a smartphone. And he also is telling the young guys to all be drafted. Unless they're learning full-time, and he knows they're learning full-time, he's telling them to be drafted, and they're being drafted because the Rebbe said so. Now this is a Rebbe that you have to admire him, and he also had to leave the Agudat Rabbanim, the rabbinical organization of Haredi rabbis, because they don't want him. Because you're no longer, this is my definition of Haredim. When other Haredim think you're Haredi, you're Haredi. If they don't think you're Haredi, you're not Haredi. Even if you think you're Haredi. Even if you're a Rebbe from an anti-Zionist sect, from doing everything right, now he's no longer Haredi. But he's brave. He doesn't care. Because he really cares about his Hasidim. He doesn't care about the Haredim. He cares about his Hasidim. And he wants his Hasidim to reach a high place. And he also it said that he tells the Hasidim that they can't give up on their learning. They have to learn hours a day. They have to work. They have to serve in the army. They have to do all these things and do their learning. Now, that's a real spiritual leader, to the point where if I didn't know where I was in the Jewish world, I might have gone to make him my Rebbe. I have no idea. But this is also what Rabbi Nachman is talking about. He's saying, you want to reach a high place in your davening and your learning, you have to go out and interact with the world. And I'm not sure, I'm guessing in his time, most people were forced to interact with the world. You couldn't just sit and learn all day. I don't think anybody, maybe Rabbi Nachman sat and learned all day because he was this great tzaddik and a Rebbe, and he was fasting and wearing tefillin all day and coming up with these crazy Torahs. But most people, they had to, you go to Ukraine today, you'll see the people living off the land just like they used to. They have a well, they have chickens, they grow potatoes, they're living in the same house that their great-great-great-great-grandparents lived in, and the house is sunken in the ground and it's on an angle. And it's amazing. So, and that's in modern times, when you can probably have a solar panel on your roof and charge a battery and at least have some electricity at the end of the day or something. In the time of Rabbi Nachman, you weren't going to eat if you didn't take care of your chickens and your potatoes and whatever it is. So you have to separate yourself. But it's also a lesson for us, those of us that are not sitting and learning all day, so we're able to get to a higher place when we come back from work or whatever it is that we're doing, and then learn something. It now gives us a new light. Ve'elokim nisa. So now it goes to the second part. And Hashem tested. Hainu lenasot ula'arim. So we say in the davening, V'san nes lekabetz geluyotenu. We say that in Shmona Esrei. Raise up a flag to gather up all the Jews from exile. So Nisayon is a test, and when he says Nisa, when Hashem tested Abraham, it means also to raise him up. Hainu lenasot ula'arim, to test him and also to raise him up. So that also means that's a lesson in that as well, that every test is in order to raise us up. If a person doesn't realize that the test is ultimately to raise them up, they'll just be broken by the test. But if a person says, I'm not going to be broken, I'm going to get up, even when they are broken, the next morning they get up, as long as they keep getting up, every time they're being raised up. Even though in the short term they might not see it, in the long term it will be cumulative and they'll see it. Et b'chinat mochim dekatnut. So it's raising a person up from the place of constricted consciousness. That's why we're being tested from Hashem. V'heim b'chinat elokim. So the constricted consciousness is the aspect of Elokim. Elokim is Hashem's name that's related to judgment and stringency. Leromem otam lebchinat mochim de gadlut. So the tests come to break a person from their constricted consciousness, to raise them up to a higher place so that they can have an expanded consciousness. And take, for example, I keep seeing articles about hostages. You know, the last one I saw, I don't read them because I just don't have the emotional bandwidth to read this traumatic stuff. Also, like even seeing an advertisement of IDF orphans, I just start crying. Like, I can't handle it. I guess when you have kids, that's really, now kids and grandkids, you realize what a big deal it is for these people to grow up without a parent. But you see these articles of the hostages, and the last one I saw was, this is a trauma that you can't get over. And probably is a trauma that you can't get over. However, the people that survived have such strength. They come out like nothing, once they get to a point where they're stable, nothing's going to break them. Because they'll say, oh, this is hard? I was a hostage for 500 days in a tunnel in Gaza. Nothing is harder than that. So that's an extreme example of how a test raises you up. It's not meant to break you, as long as you survive the test. You know, if you're broken in the test, then you're broken. But the person that survives comes out stronger. And so every test is there in order to raise us up. And how do we merit to have mochim de gatlut, an expanded consciousness? We merit it through Avraham, shu b'chinat ava. Right? Yitzchak represents Elokim, dinim, gvura, stringency, severity, strictness. And Avraham is chesed, kindness, and love, and acts of doing good things. Likutey, as is written, Zer of Avraham ohavi. The offspring of Avraham are my beloved. V'hu b'chinat chesed, and Avraham is connected to kindness, chesed. K'mo shekatuv, chesed la'Avraham, as it's written in Micha. And chesed was to Avraham. V'chesed v'a'ava heim b'chinat achat. And chesed, kindness, and love are one aspect. And the reason that we need the attribute of love from Avraham, ki al yedei tshuva me'ava zuchim lemochim legadlut. When a person does tshuva from a place of love, then they merit to have an expanded consciousness. V'zeh b'chinat chasadim v'rachamim kanan. This is the aspect of kindness and compassion as mentioned above. So what does that mean? There's two ways for a person to tshuva. A person eats something not kosher. They say, I'm going to be killed. Hashem's going to, put me in the gates of hell and burn me and make me freeze and whatever it is. And you just say, I'm never going to do that again. Scared. I'm never going to do that again. Person eats something not kosher, and they say, wow, I feel that I'm disconnected from Hashem. Before, I felt like I was just like step in step with Hashem, and now I'm not. So you can, switch it with whatever thing you want to, whatever mitzvah it is, a transgression that a person does. You break Shabbos, even unintentionally, but especially if you do it intentionally, then you'll feel. I remember when I was in between keeping Shabbos and not. I remember the last time I drove a car on Shabbos. And that was why I stopped driving the car. I wasn't worried about burning in hell. I would spend every Shabbos in the Chabad house in college. And then one Shabbos, I don't remember why I had to go into Manhattan. I drove my car into Manhattan. And I just felt like, wow, I'm driving away from Shabbos. I'm driving further and further and further away from Shabbos. And then when I came back, I just said, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to feel the distance from Shabbos by driving my car. So that's called tshuva me'ava. That's tshuva from a place of love, because you're not worried about the punishment. You just don't want to have the lack of connection with Hashem. And when a person does tshuva me'ava, then they merit to have mochim de gatlut. They merit to have an expanded consciousness, because your relationship with Hashem is now on a whole new level when you decide that you're not going to drive a car on Shabbos because you don't want to miss out on the Shabbos feeling that you had when you were not driving a car. V'zeu ha'elokim nisa et Avraham. And this is the meaning of Hashem tested Avraham. She'al yedei b'chinat Avraham menasin umirimin et hamochim dekatnut shehem b'chinat Elokim. So when this means that when we have the aspect of Avraham and we're tested and raised up from this constricted consciousness, which is the name of Hashem that's called Elokim, Zochim lemochim degadlut, the person merits to have an expanded consciousness, she'achol li'elmod u'litpalel bli iyun klan kanan, that a person can learn and study and daven without any distractions, as all is mentioned above. V'zeh perush Zohar, and this is the meaning of what it says in the Zohar. I'm just going to read it in Hebrew. Mitzad hayamin moach lavan kekesef. On the right side, a person's mind is white like silver. That's all my hair, white like silver. I'm hoping I'll go for gold and I can cash it in and just keep growing more of that gold. Perush. Maybe he's got gold. You have golden hair still.
I had red hair, and now I'm going silver.
You're blonde. Blonde. Umidat ha'ava, and the attribute of love, sheshorsha ha'niyon, hu mitzad yamin, the attribute of love, which its supernal root is on the right side. I guess yamin mekarevet v'smon docha. The right pulls close and the left pushes away. That's the equivalent of a Jewish yin and yang, opposing energies. Naaseh sichlo tzach kekesef. A person's mind or intellect is made clear like silver. Shehu b'chinat sfirat chesed. That's an attribute of kindness. Chada hu diktiv ze shene'amar. This is what it says in Yeshayahu. Zera Avraham Oavi, that the offspring of Avraham is my beloved. Ki ha'moach nikra zera Ahava. I can't say it. Avraham Oavi. Because the mind is called Avraham as my beloved, Shu midat ahava, which is the attribute of love. V'zot mishum shemidah zo ba lesechem tzach kanal. Because this attribute comes from the clear mind as mentioned above. So he goes over here, there's another perush, but we basically did all of that, so I'm not going to explain it again. He just goes over the whole lesson one more time. Okay, we're going to move on to Ayin Zayin. I think we'll finish it today because it's just one small paragraph. And I'm actually not going to read it, unless I need to, with the perush here, because when I was preparing the lesson, I realized that Reb Nassim writes at the end, and this is one of these Torahs that I got from the Hasidim, and I don't really understand what they're trying to say.
Well, let's go for it.
We are going to go for it. And the Oteh Or, which is the rabbi that wrote the commentary, he goes very deep into Kabbalistic concepts, and I think he went too far into the forest and lost the picture, because if we just read the simple text, it's not so complicated. Vaya Hashem lemelech an kol haaretz, and Hashem ruled over the whole earth. Dehine haklan hu, the rule is shekol ma she'anu osim, everything that we do, hein hatfila v'hein limud v'hein kedei sheyitgale malchuto hu kedei sheyitgale malchuto yitparach. Everything that we do, whether it's davening, whether it's learning, and really everything that we do, is in order to reveal Hashem's malchut in this world. We've talked about malchut many times. Malchut is the end of the sfirot. It's the one on the bottom that receives all of the energy from above. And Hashem's presence in this world is malchut. It's also the Shekhinah is malchut. These are just words that are used in order to explain Hashem's presence in this world. And I'll explain why it's necessary to explain it in those ways. Hashem cannot be fully revealed in this world. Otherwise it wouldn't be a world of free choice. So Hashem has to be revealed in a hidden way. But Hashem is revealed. all the time. And for people that are like tzaddikim on a high level, like I'm going to tell the story of the Baal Shem Tov in a little bit. So somebody's on the level of the Baal Shem Tov, the Shekhinah is revealed all the time. It's just right there. It's just like I look at the bottle, the Baal Shem Tov sees the Shekhinah. The Baal Shem Tov sees Hashem's presence in the world in a totally real way. So what are we trying to do? Every human being is trying to connect with Hashem. That's why people end up taking drugs. That's why people end up in all kinds of crazy places in the world. And that's also the opposite. That's why somebody becomes Bill Gates or what's his name? Elon Musk. What are they like? They're not doing it for money. What are they trying to do? What are these people in these high places? We'll go down to the person who's taking drugs. That's in order to have some spiritual experience, to be disconnected from this world. You can ask the person, why are you doing that? And they can't answer you. But the real reason that they're doing it is they want to feel Hashem. They're trying to feel Malchut. They're trying to feel the Shekhinah. They know, because everybody has a soul, and the soul is connected to Hashem, the soul knows that this world is not everything, and it wants to feel this connection. So it's looking for the connection. So we have the person that goes the route of taking drugs, and we have the person that goes the route of doing crazy things. Now, you want to be successful in business, that's good, and it helped the world, and take somebody like Elon Musk with all of the craziness that the guy puts into the world, he is doing incredible things, and probably things I don't even know about. What's pushing the person to keep going and going and going? Because why doesn't the person just say to themselves, well, I made $600 billion, I think that's enough to sit on the beach for the rest of my life. Why do they not want to sit on the beach for the rest of their life? Why do they want to push and push and push and push? Because they're trying to connect with Hashem's presence in this world. That's what we do with Shabbos. That's what we do with davening. That's what we're doing with learning this lesson. That's what we do by living in the land of Israel, and specifically living in Jerusalem. We get to feel a little bit more of Hashem's presence than other people do because we're here. Get on a plane and go someplace else, and you'll feel less of Hashem's presence. Even if you're the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe here in Israel, there'd be a nuclear explosion. Okay. How about David HaMelech here in Israel?
Okay.
That worked.
Yeah.
We had a Beit HaMikdash. I
want to do it now, but
I think the even somebody in a very high spiritual place, you even higher here. So he says, if we go back now to what I just explained, Dihine הכלל הוא שכל מה שאנו עושים הן תפילה, הן לימוד והן הוא כדי שיתגלה מלכותו יתברך. Everything that we do, learning, studying, and everything is in order to reveal Hashem's presence in this world. כי הבל פה הוא בחינת Hashem. The speech that comes out of our mouth, hevel peh, is the air that comes out, and we make all of these different sounds in our throat in order to make the different sounds with our tongue and our teeth and our throat and all of those things. They're an aspect of Hashem. V'akol hu b'machshava. And the thought is, b'hamshacha, is in drawing down. So, just like we think something and then we say it, Hashem in the same way spoke something and brought something into the world. V'hu b'chinat vav, and this is connected to vav. So we're going through the letters of Hashem's name. Yud K, we start, where is it? Yud K, Vav K, I'm pretty sure we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. It's going backwards.
It's going backwards?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Aryeh. Okay, so we're starting with Hey, then we're going to the Vav. Ukshe lomed o mitpalen betchilu u'chimu, when a person learns or studies with fear and awe of Hashem and love of Hashem, nitgale b'chinat Yud K. So then we're revealing the aspect of the Yud and the letter Hey. Ukshelomed halacha be'ofen zeh, and when a person learns halacha in order to feel a connection with Hashem, boreh olam echad. So then they create one world. Ukshelomed kol hamasechta Naaseh matronita. We make a matronate. I don't know if we say that in English. When a person learns an entire volume of the Talmud, so they're making this matron. Ve'alachot hem almin dila, and the alachot are, what is almin dila? Malachot hem olamot shel hamalka shehi shechina. So when we learn halacha, we're basically bringing the shechina down into this world because we're bringing it in a practical way. Ki ein melech belo am, because there's no king without a nation. Right? This idea that there's no king without a nation. If I say I'm a king right now, so people think I'm an idiot, because what kind of king are you? King of what? But even if I have like 100 people and they are in my kingdom and I say I'm the king and these people say, yes, your highness, then I'm already a king. So that's the meaning of that there's no king without a nation, but Hashem is the king. And there's no king without the Jewish people being in this world, davening and learning and trying to connect with Hashem. We are what makes Hashem the king, by doing these things. And so what are we trying to do when we daven and learn? We're trying to connect with Hashem. V'zeh v'haya yud ke vav ke nemelech an kol haaretz, and this is the meaning of the opening phrase. And Hashem's name, which is spelled out here, ruled over the whole world. Shenitgale malchuto, that Hashem's presence was revealed. Perush al yedei avodatenu she'anachnu miyachadim otiyot shen hey vav yud and hey haynu kshelomdim alacha ba'ofen shemotziim et hevel pinu bekol. So he says, when we bring together these letters of Hashem's name, the hey, the vav, the yud, and the hey, that is when we learn halacha in a way that we're creating a sound that comes out of our mouth. She'az hevel peh hu adibur keneged hashchina otei achona. Okay, that's where it gets too deep into it for me. So it gets very specific into which part of Hashem's name is what's happening when we're learning. But what is the meaning of what he's saying is that when we're learning Torah, like as I'm saying the words of Torah that are coming out of my mouth, now that's bringing Hashem's presence into the world. B'yirah b'ahava, with fear, with awe, and with love. Shezeu v'haya v'havaya al yedei shena'asim shechina lemelech al kol haaretz. This is how we make the Hashem's presence revealed in the world. Meir Reb Nasen Zal mevoar ma'anyen shechaser kan ribo vekechulo. Reb Nasen writes here at the end that most of the parts of this lesson are missing. Ki ikar hamechuvan chaser min hasefer. The main part of this lesson that he intended is missing from the book. V'lo zachiti la'amod klal al hadvarim ha'ele. And I didn't merit to understand at all what he's trying to say here. So I think we understood something. Whatever we understood. Okay, I'll tell you a short story of the Baal Shem Tov, and then we'll continue next week. B'ezrat Hashem. So I think I remember the story. It's pretty short here. So the Baal Shem Tov was about to, the morning prayers had just ended, and the Baal Shem Tov was about to wash his hands to eat some bread. And that's just interesting. I just realized that. So this is how we have the 3 meals on Shabbos, by the way. People used to have a pat shacharit, which is around 10 o'clock in the morning after davening, and they would have another meal about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's how people used to eat in the times of the Baal Shem Tov. Let's say, I'm guessing in most of human history, before we had this idea of 3 meals a day. And why do we have Sudash Lishit on Shabbos? We have an extra meal on Shabbos. So we have, Shabbos is 24 hours. So we have a meal in the evening, we have a meal in the morning, and then we have another meal in the afternoon, and then we have, I guess, Malava Malka, we have another meal after that. We're squeezing in more meals. Now the reason that we're squeezing in more meals on Shabbos is because all of Shabbos is Kedusha, all of it is holy, and as Rabbi Nachman explained, the holiness comes through the eating. So if a person is just eating because they just like to eat good food, they might get something out of it. When a person realizes that why does their body want to eat more food on Shabbos? It's because it wants to bring in more kedusha. It wants to digest and transform more holiness. So the Baal Shem Tov, that was just a side note. The Baal Shem Tov is washing to eat his breakfast, and he's about to wash his hands. And this woman who had been waiting the whole time to talk with the Baal Shem Tov runs over to him and says, Rebbe, you have to help me. My husband has been missing for a long time and nobody knows where he is. They say you have holy vision. They say you can see anything. Where's my husband? So he says, go to this town. And he mentions the name of the town, doesn't say it here, and you'll find your husband. And she runs off. And there was a local rabbi that was davening in the Baal Shem Tov shul, and he sees the Baal Shem Tov do this, and he comes over to the Baal Shem Tov and he says, did I just see you prophesize? Did you just give a nevuah? And the Baal Shem Tov said, well, it wasn't really prophecy. He just saw where this woman's husband was. So the rabbi said, that's prophecy. And if that was prophecy, then you had to wash your hands before you gave over prophecy. So then that's a rabbi for you. So the Baal Shem Tov says to him, imagine you have a table with the finest china and glass, beautiful table set, and a chicken jumps on the table and starts breaking all the stuff. Do you move the glass and dishes off the table, or do you let the chicken make a mess? So he said, well, obviously you move the glasses and dishes off the table, but I don't understand what's the connection. He said, I saw this woman in pain and suffering, and I was going to tell her, wait a second, I have to wash my hands first, and then I'll tell you where your husband is? No, I tell her where her husband is, and then I wash my hands. He says, it's the same thing. I'm not going to let the woman suffer even for 1 second more, just because you, Rabbi, thought that I have to wash my hands before I give her prophecy. That's the story. I always look for very short stories at the end. That's something I had in mind. It's interesting. I'm getting a lot of Baal Shem Tov in my life these days. And I'm working on a Baal Shem Tov book every night that I can. This week on the podcast, there's 2 Baal Shem Tov stories. Okay, what are we going to sing that's different?